Hi and welcome to Waffle Flower's YouTube channel. My name's Alexandra and I normally blog over at Hedgehog Hollow, but today I'm so excited to be here as a guest poster to show you how to stamp with Deco foil. Foil is a really popular technique right now, but I wanted to be able to show you how you can use it also with your stamps just to add some extra sparkly details. So let's get started. So the first thing we need to do is complete our background. I'm going to use the layering marble waffle flower set to do this. We're going to use our Deco foil and some of the Colour Story inks. I'm just going to pop these to the side whilst we get our stamp set out. And I want to explain to you how this stamp set works. It's a 3-step stamp. So if I grab it out of the packet here, and Waffle Flower made it super easy to use. So everything has a 1, 2 and a 3, and there's an A1, an A2, A1 is standalone, then you get a B1, a B2 and a B3, a C1, C2 and C3, and a D1, D2 and D3. So that's the order you will stamp them in. And you can use all 3 steps. On some of these you'll see I'm just going to use 2 steps, and on some we'll use all 3 as well. The standalone piece is great to just fill in some areas, and we may use that as well depending on how our piece looks. I have a piece of Neenah Solar White, and this is card front size, so it's 5.5 by 4.25, and then I've just trimmed 1/4 of an inch off one of the short sides and one long sides to bring it down to 5.25 by 4 inches. Now the way that I tend to start with the layering marble stamp is I use 3 acrylic blocks and I stick each of the number 1 pieces onto an acrylic block, and I need a slightly larger one for this. So let's grab that one out the drawer. You can of course use your Misty, but because I just like to stamp all over the place just to give myself a background initially, I just use acrylic blocks because it just gives me that little bit more flexibility. And we also need piece D1, and with these I lay them down and I pick them up with my block so that I know that they're nice and straight, so when I lay them up they're going to work perfectly. Now we're going to use some pink. We're going to use the Safe Choice, and I'm going to start with Like a Pro, which is a nice grey colour as well, and I'm going to put the lids next to them just so that I know what colours they are as we stamp out, and this is our Safe Choice. So let's start by stamping one of each out. I'm going to do one in the grey, I'm going to do a pink, and if you don't get a full image it is absolutely fine because we want this to look like marble and natural products are not completely the same on each one. I've just caught my block there. And then I'm going to go in, I'm going to give these a quick wipe off with my stamp chamois, and I'm going to go around and I'm going to fill in this whole piece with the grey and the pink pieces. For our next step, we're going to add some of the Peace of Mind, the slightly darker bluey grey, into some of these places, and then we're going to add our Deco foil, and I'm using the Rose Gold Deco foil, and I've taken a piece already out of my roll here, so you get quite a few of these pieces in a roll. You can see some reflections of the camera and things there as well. So we're going to got that ready to the side. And I'm going to use the Deco Art glue as well. So this is the Deco Foil Liquid Adhesive, so we'll use that in just a second. But first of all, I want to add a little bit more depth, and I am going to use, these are all the number 2 stamps, so I'm just going to go and I'm going to stamp away, and then we're going to stamp with our adhesive. So you may have noticed I took a little bit of artistic license in here. Now these do, the 2s and the 3s both line up perfectly within your marbles. However, I took a little bit of license here in particular where there were some white pieces I didn't want, and here where I wanted some heavier contrast in there as well. So you can either layer them up perfectly or you can go a little bit rogue like I did there. Now we're going to stamp out with our adhesive. And this is why I went a little bit over the top with the other pieces, so that when I now take my sponge, and I'm just going to sponge on some of the glue, and then I'm going to stamp my piece down. And this is where your foil is going to go. So at the minute it's going to look clear, and I'm going to just take each piece, and bear in mind you can go back and add more afterwards. So I'm going to take a more solid piece in here, and this is what gives you that wonderful sparkle in your background. And this is just a cheap sponge. I'll link them all up for you. And I'm going to go over this middle piece. And the other thing is, by not setting them up perfectly, is when I now go on and stamp again, sometimes I might catch the same pieces, but I'm not going to have that same all over. Now I'm going to see how this comes out, because of course you can't really see where you've put that adhesive. So I tended on my sample to go back a couple of times. I'm going to take my piece of foil, I'm going to pop it over the top, and I'm going to give it a really firm push down. Now the first thing I did was, this is one of my favourite tools in my craft room. It's actually a wallpaper roller, and I'm just going to roll it all over just to make sure all of that foil is stuck down. And there is no wastage on foil, because you can always use the smallest little bits like we will later on. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over, and I'm just going to be quite heavy-handed with my bone folder on that piece there. And again, I'm going to do the same on the front, just to really make sure that everything's stuck down. And what your test is when you pull it back, if there's any resist, you know you'll pull off some foil. If you haven't, you just need to leave it a little bit longer. So I'm just going to leave this for a couple of minutes. I'm going to wash my stamps, because you want to wash them fairly quickly, just with soap and water, and then we can touch in the next bits. So here's our finished piece once I removed that foil, and I'm happy with the amount of foil I had on there. I don't want too much because I'm going to have lots in the dress, but I do love how you just get that shimmer in the background and you get that lovely sparkly fleck, which marble often has when I look at our countertops. So now we can move on to our dress. I'm just going to pop this to the side, and for that I'm going to use my mini Misty. And I've already stamped out and pre-cut the dress here from the Heatwave Stamp Set. The Heatwave set has some beautiful dresses in it. We're going to use this one here. It has these lovely flowers and coordinating accessories, as well as a skirt and top. But we're going to add the detail to our dress using that Deco foil. Now, often we want to stamp out small things in our Misty, and it is totally possible. So I wanted to show you how. I'm going to use a little bit of Easy Dots. This is just repositionable adhesive, and I keep Teflon mats here in my Misty, and I'll link those videos up for you in the blog post, which means I can just put it straight down. Now you do want to look bird's eye view, so straight down. So I apologize if my head comes into the camera view, but I just want to look straight down. Now I'm going to pick up my piece, and I'm just going to stick my finger in here just to make sure that my dress doesn't move, although I do always just do a triple check. And again, we're going to use our Deco Art adhesive. I have a piece of window sheet. This is just the plastic that comes on the back of your stamps. I keep them for all sorts of things. And again, we're going to apply it with our sponge, same sponge. So let's put that all over our stamp, and I'm going to be quite generous. Again, I can get this off the Misty. It's not the laser etch side, just warm water, or your stamp chamois is often quite enough. So I'm going to be quite generous here with that adhesive, and I'm going to stamp it down. And so rather than having those white areas in the dress, we're going to end up with some beautiful foiled areas, and I'm being quite firm to put that adhesive down. Again, I'm just going to use my finger to peel off our dress, because of course it wants to stick to our Misty because of that foil in there. Now I'm going to remove this just as it is, and the ink I used was it's called After Midnight from My Favourite Things. I just wanted a nice rich, almost like a Wedgwood blue. Now I'm going to stick this down, and you can see here where all the pieces have gone from my background of marbling, and you just want to leave that for a couple of minutes. So while that sets and picks up the foil from the top, I'm just going to pop that to the side. and we can do our sentiment. So again, I'm going to grab one of my Teflon mats, and I've used the perfect sentiment from Waffle Flower because it was perfect for what I needed, and it's that beautiful brush script which looks so elegant with that dress. Now I'm going to use up the adhesive that I had left over, so again I'm just going to pick up my sponge, and you could use any adhesive for this, but because I already had this here, I'm just going to layer one die cut on top of the other just to give it a little bit more thickness when I stick it down. Now this is slightly different because the P is separate from the rest of your sentiment, so you just want to stick those two together, and again I'm going to leave them to dry just for a couple of minutes just to the side of my workspace. Got that adhesive on there, and it will work with paper, so you can use up any little bits that you've got left over. I always start with the biggest letter when I'm laying up a sentiment, and then I work one end and the other end, and then the rest kind of seems to always fall into line after that. So let's have a look at our dress. We'll put this to the back just for a moment, and then I'm going to grab my wallpaper roller. And the thing I find is when it's ready, it will release itself. So once the foil has been taken off that release sheet, the piece itself will start to come loose. So when you start to lift it back, this is not quite ready yet, so I'm just going to leave this for a couple of minutes. I'll go and wash my stamps, and then we can finish assembling our card. So here are all our final assembly pieces. This is our background, and this is a card base I've made out of 110 pound Neenah Solar White, just half a sheet of 8.5 by 11, and then folded it in half. I've already added some of my 3M foam tape to the back of this panel, and you'll want to decide which way up you want your piece to be. Now I tend to open up my card bases just to stick down my foam because it's a little bit easier to manage, and I tend to get a better result. I have also pre-foamed up the back of my dress, and you can see there that beautiful gold, rose gold leaf effect that we get on our dress, which just looks absolutely beautiful. So again, and I've just double stacked the foam on this one because I want lots of dimension, so that sparkle really shows. And now we can add our perfect that we did earlier with our 2 layers. Again, grab one of those Teflon sheets. You can see mine are very well loved. I'm going to use some Pritt Stick, Elmer's glue stick, tonic glue pens, lots of things you could use here. And I'm going to stick my P, and I want it to go in the waist of my dress. And just those 2 layers give it that nice edge. If you've got any Deco foil glue left, you could use that too. And just very sparingly on there. And then I'm going to stick down the rest of my effect. So there we go. So that's our finished card. Lots and lots of bling and sparkle. Love how you can stamp out with Deco foil. Hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. Do check out the linked blog post and the supply list below this video. Waffle Flower are giving away a gift card as part of my guest post. You can also find me everywhere under Hedgehog Hollow, and we hope to see you again soon. Do give our video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. See you again soon. Happy stamping. Bye.